All right. Hello, everybody, and welcome to another Batting 1,000, where we interview the heavy hitters in the mortgage industry. And I've got a great guest today. Nathan Knottingham is with us today. Nathan's got over 20 years experience in business development, both for profit and not-for-profit. He has an MBA from Corbin University. He was a U.S. Chambers Institute for Organizational Management designee. Pretty cool thing. And he really has expertise in a ton of areas: cultivating high-performing teams, helping executive managers, training loan officers. He's the chief of staff at Be My Neighbor Mortgage. He's the co-founder of Westport Creative. He's the COO and partner at Vetted VA. He now serves as the founding partner at MLO Force. So you've done all kinds of training and stuff, and he's got a cool beard to boot. Last time I saw you, it was way down there. So you've actually reduced a little bit of it. Great to see you, Nathan. Welcome.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it. Love being on this with you, and appreciate that little background for me. People don't often ask about the IOM stuff or even mention that, but that was a cool avenue of training to go down with the U.S. Chamber of Commerce when I led a Chamber of Commerce in Oregon and was part of the Oregon State Chamber Board. That's fun.
Very cool. Very cool. Well, it sounds like you and I are going to be seeing each other this weekend at the AIM Fuse conference. You're doing the VA Summit on Thursday. Is that correct?
Yep. We are, Lord willing, we'll be there through the storms and all.
Okay. We got some weather to deal with for sure. So the thing I'm most excited about with having you on, Nathan, is you are probably the premier expert in the industry on VA and how to really do that well. You guys train all kinds of loan officers, not just on how to get them licensed and in the business, but you do a lot of work on helping them to improve in what they do. And you know an awful lot about the VA side. I wore my Humble Hero t-shirt today because I thought I'd be good just to honor the veterans as part of this. So I'd love to start this conversation by having you tell us a little bit about what could lenders be doing today in 2024 to best serve veterans and really create the best experience for them and also the best results for themselves as lenders and as originators?
Thanks for teeing that up that way. It's funny, I wore my Others First shirt. I just got back from a trip to New York, and I was wearing my Others First shirt there in New York, and even had a couple people stop and be like, really? Are you sure? But when I got that T-shirt from you guys, and I thought that's the core impetus of everything that Vetted VA stands on is others first, service above self. If you want to take the Rotary mindset, right? What are that mentality of like, look, we serve others, and then later on, after doing good work, giving your all, being absolutely engaged in what you do, you will be rewarded later. You're not rewarded immediately always, but there's something comes back to you. It builds. The reciprocity continues to grow. I'm honored by your statement, but I'll take umbrage with the fact the term expert, in my opinion, the term expert means only someone who has identified they still don't know everything and they keep learning. And as they learn, they just talk, they teach, they tell. There's so many more people that know so much more about VA lending than I do. I think the beauty of it, though, is we're becoming to be known in Vetted VA and all those involved as just lifelong students. And so when something comes up, I don't stand here and say, I'm the all-knowing entity of all things for this one topic. Instead of like, hey, I learned something, I want to share it with you. And I'm willing to be wrong in case I miss it, right? In case something shows up and like, well, that's not how we do it. The VA loan, a congressionally appointed loan, it'll be 80 years old next year. It's been a funding mechanism for over 80 years. Now it's changed a lot. The initial one only guaranteed $2,500 in value, right? But that was 1945 and house prices and modifications. And it wasn't everywhere and it didn't apply to everything. What it is today, though, has become one of the most powerful lending tools out there, which is also why it is misaligned with the veterans' benefit sometimes. It is a business tool and not necessarily a service tool, which is what it was always intended to be. And so when you look at the VA loan and you ask the question, like, what can we do as lenders? How can we be better be prepared? Number one is just train your people, train your team, train. Always put them in front of opportunities that make them go, wait, do I know that? Is that really true? And then when you think you know it all, go back and double check and seek out the sources, seek out the information, not from professionals like myself, but from the handbook. Go to VA Lender Handbook and read the thing front to back. Read the M26-1 and the M26-3, which are underwriting guidelines that the VA looks at, the RLC looks at. It's all there. You just got to dig. And then I would say this. Lenders specifically, those with their dedicated lines, they may underwrite their non-depository mortgage banks. Look, let's get honest about the VA loan. The VA loan is it's a contractually earned loan type. You don't qualify for the VA loan unless somebody contractually put their life on the line for our state or for our country.
That's right.
And to use it as a modified cash cow for your business, which some lenders do, because they grab their yield spread premium and the VA is back in 25% of that loan, and so it's a guarantee, and the rates are lower. And if you're using it that way to build your business, you're doing it wrong. You're doing a disservice to the intent. Commander's intent is a big thing. The intent of that law was to serve World War veterans returning home so that they could literally have a piece of the land they just fought to defend. And that is the intent of it. The intent is not to make us all rich. It's actually to make others wealthy through generational wealth of home ownership. And so I just ask any lender listening to this, any loan officer, just ask yourself, why am I doing it? How am I doing it? And could I do it better to serve the consumer instead of myself? That's the greatest takeaway I could ask for any consideration about the VA loan.
Love that. So in a nutshell, I love what you said there, Nathan, that it's not about statistics and data and number and profits. It's about people.
Mm-hmm.
And I've had this conversation so many times over my career with our clients, with executives around the country, with loan originators by the millions, when they're trying to find the angle to produce more or make more, and there is no angle. The angle is people.
Yeah.
The angle is serve others. The angle is give back to those who've already given. I think that's critical. I love it. John 15:13 says, greater love has no one than this, that someone lay down his life for his friends. And that's exactly what a veteran's loan is about. It's about giving back to those who have given the ultimate sacrifice or have wagered themselves for this country.
Right.
And we're going to reward them through a mortgage transaction to help their families, help their future, help their generations that they're creating to have a little bit more wealth. I love it.
Yeah.
So one of the questions that I'd love to have you respond to is the NAR settlement. Everybody's talked about that till they're blue in the face. We've heard about that thing again and again and again. What is the final outcome impact to veterans? Is there any lingering challenges? Because it took them some time to get through figuring out the logistics of how they were going to serve the VA community. Tell us where we're at on that in the industry and how that all shook out.
I'd say that most listening who are familiar with the VA lending probably have already read the circular.
Mm-hmm.
That's basically all the direction we have right now. They didn't change the allowable fee structure yet. They just put out Circular 26-24-14, which went into effect on June, or actually was published June 11th, 2024. They're basically trying to say, look, we understand that the chapter says a veteran cannot pay broker fees, and now they have to because of the settlement, so they had to come out with a circular. And the circular basically says, look, we're giving temporary local variances for certain buyer broker charges. So they didn't carte blanche say it's all free game now.
Right.
But they definitely went in there and said, look, okay, there are subpoint 3. Look, there's areas where the listing broker says, we're not going to pay, or we can't list what the buying broker gets. And so here's where it's coming down to. Now we're a month, it's September. early September when we record this. We're a month into having these transactions, and here's where it's hurting. The communication between the real estate agent and the loan officer has to be upfront from the very beginning in a couple different ways. The loan officer that's pre-qualifying the veteran has to be able to say to the real estate agent that veteran or active duty service member is going to use and say exactly this. Here's how much cash they have. They cannot pay your commission, or they can pay a part of your commission, but only if you receive seller concessions for these things. Like, that real estate agent now needs to know specifically, because when they go to make the offer, if they don't get that commission point covered by seller concessions, then that could kill the deal. There's just not enough cash in the transaction. So open, better, facilitated communication. My pain point here is I think it's going to be one of those reasons that listing agents and real estate agents are going to deny accepting the VA loan again. We've spent the last 5 years in VA fighting for awareness and understanding from all parties that the VA home loan is one of the most powerful, substantial home loan products out there, even at 100% loan to value rate. We, VA, put out a couple white papers. Our latest white paper is there in vetava.com, where you can go in. It's a myth busting guide. We bust those myths with data and analytics. Here is how the VA loan has served the generational wealth of veterans for years and why it's a better loan product. My concern here is somebody walks in as a buyer. We're going to use the VA loan. Here's my pre-approval. And the buyer's agent goes to this, they make their offer, and the seller says, well, here's our commission. We're not going to pay this. We're not going to do that. We're not going to do these seller concessions. Because they're using the VA loan, that buyer just doesn't have enough capital or cash capital capacity to cover the cost unless the seller plays ball.
Right.
And now you've got, I don't know. I don't know, Dale. It's that's one that professionalism and understanding is going to have to overcome the limitation here, but communication is going to be the key. And that realtor has to communicate with the loan officer as well. They have to work as a team. They have to work as a team. It's not just should work as a team. Here's the best practice to work as a team. You have to work as a team, because that veteran and their family, or that active duty service member and their family, depends on professional teamwork and communication, not shying away from tough conversations, but having some honesty and integrity in that communication, because that veteran or that buyer is on the hook right there for following through on this.
Let me ask you this question. Back in 2021, when rates were incredibly low, and the real estate market just took off like crazy, as we all remember, and people were offering crazy amounts of money for properties. There was bidding wars happening like crazy. You get 120 people all making an offer within 5 minutes of a listing going up, and at that time, there was a lot of concern from people like me, and I'm sure people like you, about how the veterans were being treated in that time, because a lot of the realtors were really looking at the deals that were either cash offers or big down payment offers and kind of giving those preferential treatment over the no down payment VA program, even though that borrower was completely qualified for the loan and by all rights should be in the same category. Do we think we're going to see any of that happening now with this NAR settlement and the fact that there has to be this negotiation on the fees? Or do you think that won't be an issue that we're going to be dealing with?
Looking around for my crystal ball, Dale, I don't have it. I wish I knew. The one thing, it's like I got a lot of stuff behind me on my bookshelf. Crystal ball is not one of them. If I'm selling my house and somebody walks up and says, I've got all the cash offer here, or I've got a loan product that's going to take 30 days. I've got 2 weeks, they're going to do an inspection and they want their own appraisal on the property. They're going to give me cash in, let's say, 2 weeks versus a 30-day. Look, if I'm selling and buying, I want the 2 weeks.
Right.
Time is money. I understand it. It's intrinsic in what we do. So it's even hard for me to, and I hear what you're saying and how you're saying the premise of the question.
Yep.
I fully understand, but that was also a strange market set where cash was flowing.
Yep.
And so where I think it's different, that's a seller's market. Where I think it's different is in the buyer's market, kind of where we are now. If it's a buyer's market, And seller concessions are coming forth. They have to make deals close, to not drop lines or house prices too far. Now we have that one piece. It's like, okay, I've got a conventional offer and an FHA offer and a VA offer. Which one is more likely to close?
Yep.
Statistically speaking, that VA pre-approved buyer has a higher chance of closing correctly on that property. Now, the realtor, listing realtor, or even the seller, the individual consumer themselves may be like, well, that seems weird because don't they require this, 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 and this? They sure do. They sure do require a wood destroying insect or an invasive species insect report, right? They sure do require an appraisal process that has minimum property requirement listings on Chapter 12. 100%. But wouldn't you rather know that your house completely checks the boxes? Or, gosh, let's say there's peeling paint. Do you know how easy it is to fix that and overcome that issue with a VA loan? It says peeling paint has to be repaired. It doesn't have to be the same color, context. It doesn't have to match the entire wall. Do you know that actually by the RLC, you scrape the paint, you take spray can, you over it, you take a photo and send that to the staff appraisal reviewer and be like, hey, we're done. And they go,
Okay.
check, stamp, done, house is good to go. It's crazy easy to get it done. And let's say it doesn't appraise right. You've got two options to fix that appraisal issue, especially now when we don't know if the values are going down or going back up. Where are we at in the regions? And you get a weird appraiser who's like, I think things are going down, and they're going to appraise that house undervalued because they don't want to get caught up in 2007's issues again. We see it all the time. Now you have Tidewater. Okay, let's just counter it as professionals. What that appraisal? Let's make sure the appraiser is looking at the right cooperatives and comparable reports. And if that doesn't work, we can write a letter. The veteran and the active duty service member can write a letter to the RLC saying, this is why we want to buy the house for this much. We understand what the appraiser said. We disagree. Here's why. And the RLC can override the value. And the lender has to take it. Two options to overcome an appraisal without costing more to the veteran. So, yeah, maybe a little hot on this topic, but it kills me. In a buyer's market, I think the VA loan is the better, more cohesive, and it's the better bet for lenders too. It just doesn't fail.
I love it. That was exactly the kind of feedback I was looking for, and I appreciate you sharing that, because for anybody watching this, we got to remember that ultimately we want to make sure that we are not just serving the veterans in this, but we're serving our sellers. And we know these things. It's all about education at the end of the day. It's about having the right information, the right knowledge, and the right education to win in this marketplace. So that's where I want to go with the next question. You have started up MLO Force. You've done loan officer training and leadership training for years and years and years, just like I have. You're seeing a lot of the same things that I'm seeing out there, but I'd love to get your perspective on, first off, how do you see the importance of, in today's marketplace, originators being very, very knowledgeable and informed on not just the products and programs you're selling, but the marketplace and how to approach that? Give me a little bit of feedback from your perspective on that, and where you kind of see learning going in the coming decades.
Okay, yeah. Well, you have to remind me the second part of that question, because that's a bigger question. But let's just talk about the learning to do the job. I started as a mortgage loan officer in Salem, Oregon in 2007, May of 2007. We all know what was coming down the pipe. I have terrible timing when it comes to starting at something like this, but it got in my blood. I didn't know what I didn't know what I didn't know. I left Starbucks where I was managing. I said I had bought my house in end of 2006. I was like, wow, they made how much on me? That didn't seem like a lot of work. I could support my family. But it gets in your blood. And so the first thing is a consummate professional, somebody who has chosen their vocation, not one who's trying their vocation. I think there's a distinct difference.
I love that.
And I'm going to give it to you. And I think about 3 to 4 years, you move from trying to choosing, but it takes a while. And when you are a distinct chosen, when you have chosen your vocation, you understand, you stop getting past the point of look at me, and you start getting to like, okay, I got to get better. Mm-hmm. A lot of the art, and this was as I do get to travel and see things, the buildings, the art, the things that last, the things that men and women have created that actually have long-term impact were not the first thing they tried. It was the thing they committed their life to perfecting and getting better and better and better and doing.
Yep.
That is where professionalism meets profit. It meets success, because they never stop and think, okay, well, I've arrived. It's
Yep.
like, no. They realize they learned a lot and they have a lot more to learn. And they keep going forward. And then as they're learning, like a river, like a pond, a healthy pond, there's an outlet as much as there's an inlet. There's stuff coming in, and the capacity that they've learned, the wisdom that they've gained, they start sharing it out back out. Take the other biblical matter, the biblical of the Paul and Barnabas structure, right? I've got a learner and I've got a teacher, and you just, that's how you continue to grow. And so as we move forward in that process, what I'm finding myself more okay with is, like, there are a lot of people starting in this industry at different ages and stages, but all of them have to start. And they keep asking me, can you teach me to be a better loan officer faster? And the answer is no. What I can teach you is how to be a better learner faster.
Mm-hmm.
Get hungry, read every single book, watch every free podcast you can, hop on YouTube, just soak it in, like learning a foreign language. And in 3 to 4 years, it's going to click and you're going to get it. And it's going to start showing, just your resilience and learning will start showing that success you're looking for. The money will start coming in a little better. The pay raises, which literally it is. If you started a job in the entry level, you will work 3 to 4 years to get to a point where now you're getting pay raises of like, oh, that's what I wanted to earn. And now the opportunity to get bigger and bigger pay raises, that's this industry just in sales. If you start thinking you're going to get paid like a CEO on year one, you're not in it for the right reasons. You're going to fail out. You have to get in it. You get a starting salary. You earn your own pay raises as you get smarter, wiser, and operate more efficiently. And so I look at those that ask, like, how can you teach me to be a better one? Well, I can teach you structure. I can teach you questions to answer. I can teach you how to be a learner, but it's on the job training. I cannot teach you what kicking the coffee table in the middle of the night because you moved it out of a whim and forgot where it was is going to teach you. From that point on, every time you kick that coffee table, you're going to remember next time you're in the middle of the night where that coffee table was, because that hurts.
Yep.
It's the hurt that teaches us the most in the process. And I don't know, anybody watching this in the industry for a little while, the loans in your mind are the ones you failed at, and somebody was hurt emotionally or financially, and those are the ones that stick with you. Those are the ones that you learn from the most, because they were painful. They're still painful to some degree when you think back on them and how you failed. But they're the most valuable because it makes you stronger going forward.
That's so good.
So to your second part of your question, where does learning go? Man, okay. 2 things. I think that number one, learning needs to stop. We need to stop trying to capitalize on what we know so well. Learning needs to be just there. If philosophically speaking, I went to college, but that's not that's actually true. I did go to college. So I went to college and kind of worked my way through it. Was the first out of my family to finish a 4-year degree, then go get my master's, and I paid for it all myself. Just because my parents didn't have money and nobody really knew how to do it, but they helped as where they could. My son is 15 and we're talking about colleges. And I told him directly, I will not pay for your college. I'm saving money, but it is not for your college. And he's like, well, I said, if you want to go to college, basketball, scholarships, academics, take out the loans. That's on you. There's a choice to make. You need to make that choice. Because learning is really, really inexpensive anymore. I need to be aware and I need to know how to do research. I need to be hungry for knowledge. And then I go. I look at YouTubes and blogs and Quoras, and I listen to podcasts. There's so much content I can read and take in. And then as long as you have a coach or somebody that helps you apply that and practice it. When I finished my 4-year degree, I was trying to get the big job out of college. And I was so frustrated because I was still working for Starbucks. I went back and spoke to one of my counselors and mentors. Dr. Trammell and I said, hey, I'm frustrated. They're not hiring me. I got 4-year degrees. I basically had a double major and a minor in music. And like, why won't they hire me? And he said, look, you just spent 4 years of us teaching you the theory of business.
Right.
He's like, you're working for Starbucks, a Fortune 500, 100 company at the time. He goes, spend the next 4 years practicing that theory and putting it into practice. And then you'll have something they'll want to hire.
Good.
And I was floored. I was kind of angry about it too. Like, what did I just pay for? But the wisdom of what he said was perfect.
Right.
I spent 4 years working for Starbucks, and I applied my theory into reality, and that reality became wisdom. And that wisdom is what people are buying. That's what they pay you for. So back to my son talking about college, like, look, I'm not going to pay you to go to college. I'm not going to pay for your college. But if you choose to go that route, but when you're done and you're ready to choose your vocation, I will help you pay for your living expenses. I will invest in you, son. I will not invest in an institution. That is what we're going to do with our money, because it's his ability to apply his knowledge and his learning into from theory to reality, gain wisdom. I will pay for that all day for him. So as we look at future training in this industry, what does it look like? There's free training, and free is only as far as it goes. There's free training. There's inexpensive training, which does not mean it's either free nor bad. It could be really good. They're just not causing the high level. And then there's coaching. There's actual counseling. And that's something that I look at, like what you do is you can meet the person and you talk about the person. Who are they? Where they're from? Why do they do what they do? How do they do it? What drives them every single day? What else? What other? You get into their psyche and help them understand, here's who you are, here's where you want to be, and here are the mental roadblocks that you have set up, either intentionally or unintentionally. Let's get through those pieces. Now, I'll pay a lot of money for that, because that is the independent training that is going to help me just exceed farther. So when you take a company like MLO Force, we come out, we launch. Look, I've got loan officer friends. I'm a licensed loan officer myself. I run with a brokerage. I've got people. I'm not going to go charge a lot of money for the training that you have to take to stay in the business. We're just going to pay. We're going to charge what it takes to produce a really top quality product. Now, if you want my time, if you want an hour of me helping you go from point A to point B and really think about it, my time's pretty valuable, because I got a lot of wisdom to dump down on this problem. And I grew up in the Northwest. Forest fires are always a danger. There's always a fire every summer. Forest fire crews, God love them. They will go into a burning inferno where they may get trapped and die. But everybody cheers the moment the big belly plane comes over and dumps a ton of water on them. When you have a coach and you're in trouble, that's that big belly plane. They have so much wisdom just to dump in one spot at one time to put out your fire. Good. That is worth the world when you have it. So those are a couple of my thought philosophies there.
Okay. I love the analogies used with the big belly plane. That's a cool way to look at it. Now, let me ask you this question, because I've been in training for 30 years, in the business for 41. You've been in training for 20 years. We've got a lot of experience between the two of us in that training. And I would agree with you that having a good coach is very beneficial. The key phrase there is good coach. There is just so many coaches that I see out there today. And then the question becomes, how do you disseminate the ones that truly are worth the money, like you talked about, that have the wisdom, and the ones that maybe are not worth that? I'd love to hear your thoughts and feedback on that, because from my perspective, and at Mortgage Champions, we don't coach per se in the way that you guys do at MLO Force, or I know you work with Christine Beckwith, longtime friend of mine. Mm-hmm. Christine has Vision 2020 Coaching. They do a great job. They've all got experienced people who've been in the trenches, who are doing these kind of things. I think that's obviously one of the keys. But talk a little bit, because I've always said, as I've trained loan officers on right approaches, right philosophies, right systems, how to build a process of selling that absolutely works 100% of the time if you apply it. But the key to that is you got to apply it, as you mentioned it earlier. And when I talk to them about coaching, I go, look, you got to understand. You've got to understand the credentials and the background and the expertise of the person who's coaching you. Don't just grab somebody because they're a coach because it's fashionable. Talk a little bit about what people should look for when finding a great coach.
Uh, I can only speak to my own perspective on that too, right? So what should you look for? Here's what I look for. Here's how I view it. I look at what's the product that is out there, not just how they market themselves and how flashy it is, but what's the product? What are the end results?
Good.
Are there people that I'm tracking and going, I want my career to kind of I want to go that way. Well, then I would ask myself, who are they coached by? Who are they learning from? Okay, I want to read from them too.
Good.
This is not a new philosophy. If you're into Greek literature and philosophy, like Aristotle, all the philosophers that we heard their names either in Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure or in college courses. You heard their names, right? Like those were the guys. They learned from each other, and it went from here to here, and they built on each other.
That's right.
So that's what I look for. So if I'm following somebody, I go, well, who were they coached by? Well, they were coached by Dale and more champions. I'm like, oh, well, what did they learn? And then I look at the coach and say, is that coach flashy? Pardon me, with the watches and the cars and the travels and the speakers and the suits and stuff? That's not me. That's not who I want to be.
Mm-hmm.
I bought 10 acres in North Texas because I want my kids to grow up shooting guns and digging holes and working really hard on land like I did, and driving beat up cars because our wealth is not in what I drive. Our wealth is what we invest in home and location. So
Amen.
that's me. So I'm looking for those types of things, and then when it gets into it, am I getting the listicles? Like do these 5 things and you'll become this one thing, and you're like, what is that? I just paid for a list. Like that doesn't help me. Or do I get the really kind of like, here's my problem, and I get 15, 20 minutes of just listening. Some of the best coaches I had, one passed away a number of years ago, Mike McLaren, and he had all the quippy sayings. Some he came up with, some he didn't. That 2 ears, 1 mouth, listen twice as hard as you speak, like things like that. But what he exemplified for me every time was if I had a problem and we were sitting for lunch or something or coffee, 2/3, 3/4 of that time was him just listening to me complain about it. And then he'd say like 1 or 2 things. And it was worth every moment that I could spend with him. I just wanted the 1 or 2 things. Because our brains as humans, we cannot take in an hour's lecture. I'm hoping to drop 1 or 2 things in this entire podcast that somebody will listen to and go, that was it.
Yep.
I got that. That's the one thing I will remember. There are lots of things in here for lots of different people, but if somebody will just take 1 or 2 things, that's worth all of it. So I find people who will listen to me, who will encourage me, then who will push me. If they can see a vision of me that I'm having trouble seeing and help cast that vision to me, I need that. I'm a doer. I'm a builder. I need vision people in my life. So if they can help me and say, hey, Nate, here's your problem as you just laid it out. Here's where I see you being, but you're not there yet. Here's what it's going to take for you to get there. It's not a full answer. It's a guiding light. It's a focal point. It's a waypoint for me to go towards. That has helped me the most. Those are the coaches I desire to be or to follow, and a coach I desire to be. I had a mentor in Starbucks. I was in college in Starbucks thinking, wow, this could be a job for me. I should get into shift management. And Michelle Brown, that was a district manager. She said, I really love being just a note on somebody's resume. And I thought about that for a long time and thought,
That's pretty cool. Yeah, that's cool.
I want to take it a little bit step further. I took it in my guiding principle is I want to be a footnote in somebody's biography. When they're writing their biography and said, and just a footnote, just on the bottom of the page by a number, it said, actually because of an engagement with Nathan Knottingham, something I did with him, I chose a better path. And the rest of the book takes off, right? That to me is a guiding principle for me. I want to be a footnote in biographies.
I love that. That's my favorite quote of the day right there. That's a great way to look at it. Is we are here to invest in others so that we can make their lives better. It goes back to others first thing you talked about at the front end of this conversation when we were talking about how we should be treating veterans as an originator or lender. And the same thing applies to coaching. If you are hiring a coach that isn't invested in you that isn't interested in you humanly and personally, and your personal growth, and your growth in your family, and your growth in your faith, and the growth in all the things that matter for you, then it's not the right coach. You shouldn't spend a dime on that. And,
Right.
I'm certainly a proponent of coaching, but I'm only a proponent of good coaching, of working with coaches who truly do want to invest in the people they're coaching and make a difference, because we've all had those mentors in our life that have made a major difference. So let me close out with that. I usually close out with this question because I'm a firm believer in mentorship. Talk to me a little bit about mentors you've had in your life, what difference they made, and how much you value mentorship and the importance of it for anybody who's trying to be at the top of their game in life.
I have been and continue to be mentored by very awesome people. Um, Currently, one of them is a rancher. He deals in cattle. We have nothing in common. And I love talking to him because his analogies are the best. Like, they just cut straight to the
I love
chase.
it.
There is nothing more real than trying to raise a herd of cattle and say, look, I put a bull in a pen with a bunch of cows and I need there to be babies. I need calves. And you take that reality, like, you don't succeed unless those two animals do their job. Like, there's nothing you can do. I can't, maybe. So I have mentors who speak into outside of my industry. I want that. I want different perspectives, because then the more you learn, the more you realize, look, we're all facing the same challenges. You could bottle those challenges into a book. We just look at them so differently depending on what we do in the world. And then mentors that I've had before, I've had just some phenomenal men and women in my life. I mentioned a couple there. Doug West was another. He was the one who just hammered into me the go ugly early. If you screw up, don't let other people find out. Just go tell them. And that has helped me so much in lending. Like, calling a borrow. I messed up, and before this gets out of hand, here's what happened. Here's how we need to fix it. Or, I don't know how to fix it, and I failed you. I'm sorry, right? Like, I don't know what it is, but go ugly early. Don't get caught. Just be honest about it. But the mentorship piece, there's coaching and there's mentorship. Mentorship usually costs me time and effort. Coaching costs me money and time.
Mm-hmm.
And it's mentorship I get by rubbing elbows and sweating with and spending time with and engaging with people. Coaching, I look out, I seek, I desire that. I'll pay for it. It's for that. Mentorship is free. Mentorship, you should look around and say, what's it going to cost me? Well, it's going to cost me learning, maybe, and doing with somebody. So it's exceptionally valuable. And it's one of the things I love doing just a ton, which makes me a really bad coach. I've made my way teaching mortgage law and trying to make it at least a little bit engaging.
That's a tough challenge.
That's where I've made my presence known. But I love mentoring. I love talking with people and helping them get the aha moments, those couple moments that only mentors can help you find, that you go, wow. And then they get to stay with you. Good mentors stay their life. There's a connection point. Maybe sometimes you talk a lot, sometimes you talk a little. I've got a great mentor. He lives in Hawaii. We go through periods of seasons where we talk every couple days. And then there's periods of seasons we don't talk for, a month, or check-in times, just a text message, see how things are going. But that is somebody I can always go back to, and he will always call me out for who I am. And if I'm being true to myself, if what I'm saying rings true to him and others, and it helps just be a guiding voice as you trudge forward into whatever this world is you've been ordained and built to move forward in.
Love it. Well, you talked about two things there that have always been two of the guiding principles that I have encouraged leaders with my entire career when they're looking at hiring, recruiting, and working with their people. And that is, you have to have people that are transparent and people that are teachable. Transparency and teachable are absolutely essential to success. If we can't be transparent enough to say, this is what I'm good at, but this is what I really stink at. I'm not good at this at all, and I need to learn. A lot of people today don't want to do that. They don't want to be that transparent. There's there's this issue I see a lot out there today where people don't want to admit their faults, and there's absolutely nothing wrong with admitting your faults. That just makes you human.
Yeah.
Not being perfect just makes you human like all the rest of us. And
Yeah.
if you're then teachable to adjust those things through coaches and mentors and seeking knowledge and seeking information, all the things you've talked about so eloquently, it really does change your career and it changes your life. It's not just going to make you a better loan officer or leader. It's going to make you a better husband, wife, mother, father, brother, sister, friend, neighbor. It's going to do all of it. It's going to just impact everything that you do.
Yeah.
Any final thoughts, Nathan, as we wrap up?
There's a lot of books behind me. If you see this, and that's only a portion of all the books that I tend to collect too many of.
Yeah.
Most of those in the business realm deal with a couple things: vision casting and / goal setting, and conflict resolution. Like if you get down to most of your business books, it's about conflict resolution and how to cast a vision or cast a vision. Those are the two things you mentioned them: transparency and teachability, right? Like how clear and concise can you be? If you're going to set your vision and not have transparency with why your vision runs, then your company is not going to last a long time through the turmoil. And then the teachability, that's conflict. Good teachers create and manage conflict very well. They should cause you to struggle. They should cause you to stress. They should cause you to sweat. They should cause you to even internally curse. But you come through it educated, understanding, and knowing it, and having a better idea of what's happening. So those are the pivots I would put on it. Leaders should be readers, and readers should be thinkers, and thinkers should be teachers. And we just kind of go through that process together, one at a time. So I'm honored to be able to speak with you. Thank you so much for the time just to sit here and share just a couple of my thoughts. And as we move through this into 2025 already, I'm just looking at the calendar going, wait, we're so close. Here we go. We're going to be guiding through change. I want every leader listening to this right now. The next 3 to 5 years are going to be not just lending change. It is world pivoting change ahead of us. Technology, business as we know it, team members, how they work, it's all changing rapidly. So get ready, buckle up. Here we go.
Yeah. Amen to that. I love how you close that out. I think as you were talking, I was thinking about Proverbs 29:18. One of my favorite verses says, where there's no vision, the people perish.
Yeah.
And that really ties into what you're saying. And as leaders, this is something that I teach all the time in leadership principles is if you're not casting vision, then you've got dozens or hundreds or thousands of visions underneath you that may not match up to the ultimate place you want to go. And where you don't have vision, people are going to perish. And that's a guiding principle for leaders that all of us can live by, that can make a big difference. Nathan, it has been great to have you. I love your
Thanks.
humility, by the way. The first time I met you, that struck me right away. You're just such a nice guy to talk to. I appreciate you being on here. Great wisdom. So many great things that you shared. Look forward to seeing you in New Orleans coming up. Where can people reach out to you if they want to sign up for MLO Force or get your coaching? Where would they go to find you and do that?
Absolutely. Well, I appreciate that. Yes, either Nathan at MLO Force, which we named it MLO 4CE. So you get it MLOforce.com, or Nathan at vettedva.com. Either you just find me on social media. I am so far the only Nathan Knottingham, spelled with a K, Knottingham, that is out there. So if you look it up, you'll find me. And Dale, I will leave with this part. Ephesians 2:10 has kind of been the core structure to me. Workmanship of Christ Jesus, or workmanship created in Christ Jesus to do good works, which have been prepared in advance for us to do. So anything that you see good coming from me is just in the fact that I've been prepared to do it and been worked and humbled by the work that I've done, just so that I can continue to move forward and help others too. So I appreciate it. Thanks for the time, and I look forward to seeing you very soon.